So to talk about LinkedIn, to talk about its power, to talk about how it is that you're going to brand yourself, we have two experts who have come down here, Michael Nguyen and Marina Feehan. We're very lucky to have them. They've done a lot of speaking about professional branding and also with social media and digital. They've spoken at national conferences, they've spoken here locally, bar associations, to professional associations, and also to associates and partners within their own firms that they have either worked for or are currently working for. So let me introduce our speakers. Mr. Nguyen is the Senior Manager, Attorney Resources and Recruiting at Winston & Strawn in San Francisco. He's been with Winston and his predecessor for over 11 years. He's in charge of all aspects of partner, associate, and law student recruitment and oversees the summer associate program. And Ms. Feehan is the founder of Positive Counsel. It's a legal career consulting and business maximization firm. Prior to founding her own firm and business, she practiced law for over 15 years. And she also worked in career services over at the University of San Francisco's Law School, and that's where I first became acquainted with her. She brings with her the knowledge of having been someone who practiced at the highest levels, and then also someone who's been doing a lot of advising of students and graduates, and now working with a wide array of professionals who are looking for further career transformations and career moves. I'm going to turn the balance of time over to you for your presentation, and let's give them all a round of applause and thank you for coming.
Thanks, guys. We're really excited to be here today, and I'm very, very pleased and impressed by the turnout. So thanks so much for coming. Michael and I are planning to basically have a conversation with you guys and really teach you what LinkedIn is all about, because it is the only professional social networking website out there. And I call it the Facebook for lawyers. How many of you guys are on LinkedIn now? Great.
Okay. And we want to get an idea of your level. How many of you guys are 1L? 2L? Okay. 3L?
Welcome. Everybody's welcome.
Okay, that's good to know. Okay.
So our agenda for today is we'll be talking about why LinkedIn for law students. And then before you even hop on LinkedIn, although you guys are already LinkedIn, thinking about a strong social media policy for yourself going into your professional life. We'll talk about how to execute your social media strategy on LinkedIn and also to actually execute it on all other social media platforms that you might be on. For instance, how many of you guys are on Facebook? Okay, that's almost everybody in the room. How many of you guys are on Twitter? Okay, fewer. How many of you guys have a YouTube channel? 1, 2. YouTube is actually the fastest growing social media platform on the web today. I have a social media channel on YouTube. Yes, I do. So we'll be talking about e-professionalism best practices, what to do and what not to do. And Michael's really the expert around that because he, as part of his recruiting role, he's seen a lot of things that law students and lawyers do wrong when it comes to applying for a job or even in interviews. We'll also be going over Brand You, which is really how you maintain and control your reputation and your brand on the internet as well as on in person. Okay, so why LinkedIn for law students? LinkedIn, while it's not as big as Facebook, it's been growing pretty much exponentially since it started 10 years ago. There are now over 225 million members worldwide in over 20 countries. But the most important thing is that the United States is well represented in LinkedIn because this is where it started, actually down here in Palo Alto. And decision makers from all 500, Fortune 500 companies are on there. So these are the folks that have the hiring power. They are on LinkedIn, and they are madly recruiting on LinkedIn. I've had law students that have actually been sourced on LinkedIn, and what that means is they've got a LinkedIn presence, and they have actually been contacted by recruiters, typically at corporations such as Google, some other tech companies down here, that have just been looking at resumes online and looking for people with an employment law background or an IP background, and then contacting their students directly for a job opening that they had as a law clerk. So that happened to many of my students while I was at USF. So definitely, for professionals, this is the place to be. Now, out of those 225 million users, back in 2011, 77,000, did I say that right? No, 700.
7,000.
I can't
Basically
read.
$750,000.
That's right. And legal sector is the 5th largest. So it pays to be on LinkedIn because the people right now that are hiring you guys are in my age group. And we don't trust Facebook. We don't like Facebook. Maybe we'll go on Twitter because Twitter can get us clients. But LinkedIn is the place where we go to, find new clients, to look at candidates, to source candidates, to network with our peers, the people in power. So this is why it pays to have a very professional looking profile and professional types of activities that you're conducting on LinkedIn. So what are some of the job search stats here? The average number of people who apply for any given job, say you're going to get 118 applications. I've known some employers that have sent things out, they put up a job ad and they get 500, and they get inundated with amazing resumes. And only about 20% of those folks are going to get an interview, so that's 2 out of 10 if you're lucky. And kind of given that kind of a stat, the one thing that the U.S. Department of Labor says is that 70% of all jobs are found through networking. And right, Michael?
Yeah, I would agree that networking is very important. And I think, and then the further slide we'll talk about networking, the value of the network, right?
Yeah.
So,
In 2012, there were 3.6 million job openings. About 80% of those were never advertised, okay? And so what that means is that there's a hidden job market out there. And,
sorry to
go ahead.
interrupt, but I got my current job 11 and a half years ago because I was happened to be the right place at the right time. Someone knew me and liked me, and I was pulled into it.
And when I was at Career Services, I can't tell you the number of times I got phone calls from employers saying, do you know anybody? Can you recommend anyone? And even now, when I'm not in Career Services, I constantly get calls from lawyers that I know. Do you know anyone? Can you recommend somebody? And so that's how people prefer to hire. They prefer to hire through their network and call their network or email their network. And then, if you can recommend someone, that would be great. If they can't find anyone through that, then that's when they take that added step of putting up an ad. But believe me, that's why 80% of the available jobs are not advertised. So, some stats here, and this is very current from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the Occupational Outlook Handbook. It says here that from 2010 to 2012, the job market for lawyers is going to grow by 10%. And so right now there's about 70,000 jobs in the U.S. for lawyers. That means in the next 10 years, there's only going to be 70,000 more new jobs that are created, okay? That's kind of a scary statistics because they're graduating about, in the past 3 years, they graduated about 140,000 law graduates. Okay, and out of those 140,000, about 50,000 are still looking for jobs. So it really, really pays to work on your network and to try to find the hidden job market yourself and and work through that by having people get to know you on a personal level and working on your network before you actually need it. So as we start this off, remember these sayings.
I like this one. Build your network before you need your network. No one wants to hear from you when you need something. So I think you since most of you are 1Ls, I think it's a really good time for you to start developing those connections with people, finding people that you think that can help you in your career, get people invested in you personally so that they'll want to help you. Because no one wants to hear from you when you need something. That's the truth, right?
Exactly. And the other thing to remember is your net worth equals your network. And I think one of the things that I hear a lot from law students and from the younger associates is, you know, when they were in law school, career services pushed them to network, and they start thinking of networking as a dirty word. It's a bad word, you don't want to do it. And one of the things I point out is that you're actually already constantly networking in your life. So for you 1Ls that just came here, on your first day of school, what did you guys do? Network. You guys were talking to each other, right? Trying to find out what undergrad you went to, where you're from, what you're interested in, why you came to law school. People start dating each other like crazy at USF. Everybody ended up getting married. I mean, that's networking. Okay, there's massive networking going on. So you guys are already skilled at networking, and yet when we take you to a networking event, there's like this fear. Oh my God, I don't want to talk to a partner. What do I do? You know, that kind of stuff. And you'll get over that fear, but it's a matter of just constantly going to those events and meeting people and making quality connections with them.
One tip I have, and Marina knows what I do, and I use LinkedIn as my tool. I hate networking, and I did in the very beginning. What I do is, in the beginning, I set out, I had to take one person out to lunch or drinks once a month. And then and as it became a regular habit, I increased it to 2 times a month. And just regular people throughout my network, and just so that they would give a crap about me and get to know me. And it's proven very helpful. I mean, you would agree that, I get people calling me and saying, hey, do you want to interview here? Or, hey, can you help me with this? Or do you know someone that might be interested to work with me? Blah, 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 blah. And it's actually proven really handy. And it's just something that, if you hate doing it, just set a small goal for yourself and just keep doing it. And it becomes a regular habit.
And along the lines of networking for you guys, coffee dates I think are really good. So when I was in law school, I didn't know any lawyers. I didn't have any lawyers in my family. I really didn't know what lawyers did except from what I saw on TV. And back then it was Boston Legal and LA Law were the things that we watched. So I didn't know anything about lawyers, and I would ask lawyers to have coffee with me. And because they knew I was a poor law student, they would usually end up paying for coffee or taking me to lunch, which was kind of an added bonus because, you know, the food's not very good in the dining halls. So that was a really great way, and what it does is when people get to know you personally, like Michael said, they become invested in you. And so that is the goal of, you know, social media, is to move from online to offline and get people to know you on a personal level. And you guys have already really started doing that with your Facebook, because, you know, Facebook, people really do get to know you on a personal level, and it's a matter of kind of taking it to a more professional level. So one of the things that you want to really start thinking about is having a social media strategy. Okay, you don't just hop on LinkedIn without thinking it through. And so we're going to be going over a social media policy for you. So the GAP method. Michael, I'm going to let you explain it.
Okay, so GAP, well, this is your trademark, right?
Yeah,
okay,
I created this.
The GAP method is an
Michael does
acronym,
it.
and it's the G is for goals, A is for your audience, the first P is for promotion platform, the second P is for your process and your policies. And the social media rules of engagement, we have connection plus community equals, I think that's where you were.
Well, connection and community. I mean, the whole point of being on social media, as you guys know, is to connect with other people and to have a community that's online. Then, in order to really be part of that community, you need to participate in that community. And you need to engage in conversations and discussions. And so we'll show you how to do that through LinkedIn, because you need to kind of, you know, hang out online, listen to the discussions and see what's going on back and forth, and make sure that when you're participating in the discussions that you're actually adding value. Okay, LinkedIn is not a place where you're going to sit there and post like photos of what you've eaten. Okay, I mean, I have friends that do that, and I love it because I live vicariously through food and find restaurants. So that's great for Facebook. It is not so much for LinkedIn. For LinkedIn, what you want to do is you want to look like, the lawyer that you want to be. So act like the lawyer that you want to be by maybe posting things of interest. Say you want to do IP law. Maybe you read a great article on IP law, and you can share that with your network on LinkedIn by adding a link. So those are the types of things that you want to do online. That's what we mean by adding value. So the next slide is going to show how Michael created a sample social media policy for you guys.
Well, yeah, so since most of you are 1Ls and some 2Ls, our goal for you is to identify potential employers for next summer, 2014. And so your audience for your social media strategy will be employers in the public and private sector. The platform and the promotion that you'll use is the LinkedIn platform to raise your visibility. We encourage you to join groups, provide answers to questions that are posed by your network, and engage with your connections. Then under the second P for procedures and policies, we'll have you update your status, post articles, and follow up offline, face-to-face with those connections that you've made.
And so this GAP method is really a social media policy that you can use across all forms of social media. So, once you become a lawyer and say that you're working for a private law firm and you need to get clients, this is another way for you to think through your strategy of how you're going to get clients. Because there, your goal would be identify potential client base. And your audience might be, maybe you want your audience to be tech companies. That's who you want your clients to be. Then you think about your platform. How am I going to reach these tech companies? Maybe, Twitter, maybe LinkedIn, maybe Facebook, maybe YouTube, maybe by then, there's going to be some other platform for you to start connecting with people online. So this is a way for you to kind of strategically think through the steps and the procedure that you're going to be following with how you're going to reach these people, and also like your policies. Because one of the things, as you become more seasoned, you're going to find people that are going to want to connect with you that you don't even know. So I get that a lot. Michael gets that a lot. And do you really want to connect with people that you don't know, or do you want to, quality over quantity? So these are some of the things that you want to think about. Another thing about the online job search that you really, really need to pay attention to is you need to make sure that your online resume matches your paper resume, and that your online resume that's going to be on LinkedIn is actually correct. So one of the big mistakes that I see is people write down the name of their law school wrong. Okay? Yes, they call it the wrong name. They also say that their degree is a Juris Doctorate. It's not. Most law schools will give you a Juris Doctor. So it's actually safer to just put JD instead of, Doctor of Jurisprudence, because when I see that, I laugh. Because that's not the degree. So check with your law school career services to see what the actual degree that you're getting. And you might think this is nitpicky, but lawyers notice, I notice, if we notice a mistake, you're out, okay? If we're getting 500 applications and there's an error, you're done.
I agree.
You agree?
Especially if, you say you're detail-oriented and, your fonts don't match up. I get thank you emails from people. Morgan's nodding her head. She knows what I'm talking about. I get thank you emails from people. I can tell they cut and paste. I see Times New Roman. I see Helvetica. They did a merge. It's like, come on. Let's not be lazy,
Yeah, and I do recruiting for private corporations, so I staff alternative legal career jobs. I got a couple of thank you notes, and I could tell that they cut and paste because it was black, and then all of a sudden, the font color turned blue. And hello,
You get it, I know it.
Yeah.
It happens all the time, and it's those little details that can really bite you, for sure, absolutely. And especially the degree, that's a pet peeve of mine, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, and the other thing is that my other pet peeve, because I'm actively recruiting for a couple of positions right now, and people are calling, it's for a corporation, yet people are in their cover letters referring to it as your firm. It's not a firm. There's a difference between a firm and a corporation. So you have to be really careful about things like that. with just those little tiny details, okay? That we are looking for an excuse to put you in the trash can. Because there's so many other good candidates. Why should we pick somebody that made an error? Okay? Because we're gonna think that they're gonna make errors like that on the job, on a very important brief that they're writing, they're gonna miscite it, and we're gonna look bad in front of the judge. So, things to think about. So really, work with career services on your resume first, on your paper resume. If that's perfect, then go ahead and, make the changes to your LinkedIn, okay? Because there are so many errors that I see on LinkedIn.
I can't emphasize enough,
Yeah.
work with the career services on the resume. Like, since you guys have just started school, I would say like maybe like
November 1st.
November,
It's
well,
actually
December
1st.
October
October now. They moved it up.
15th, yeah.
Oh, when they can start, but,
When we start coming in for advising sessions.
okay, so start this soon, because again, this is part of your network, develop the relationship with your career services people, because they can help you along. Because we at firms talk to you, and sometimes we say, hey, I like this student here, blah, 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 right?
About them, what do you know about them? Absolutely.
It's very critical, and these people are experts, they know how to word stuff, they know what we're looking for, and they know the format, and can begin to tell you the pet peeves of formats that I don't like when people try to put everything on their resume, they have barely like a quarter-inch margin around. I like 1 inch, I like white space on a resume.
I do too.
I like thin scribe lines. I like the dates to be very obvious on the right-hand side. If you're making me do a lot of work on your resume, I'm like, I've moved on,
You have 5 seconds to get our attention, and that's the same thing with a LinkedIn profile. You have 5 seconds to get someone's attention online. So for LinkedIn for job seekers, the point of it is really to get noticed and to build your brand online. You want to get connected and build your network, and then you also want to get opportunities by finding that hidden job market. Michael, could you do the PowerPoint? So the great thing about social media is it's really a fantastic place to launch your personal brand. And the thing with your personal brand, you probably already have a brand, okay? Because a lot of you are already on Facebook. Some of you guys are on Twitter. You guys have a brand. You already have a reputation before you even came into law school. So how many of you guys have kind of locked down your Facebook settings since you've come to law school? Good. All right. You might
Do you
want to.
guys make sure that your posts are only viewable to your friends? Good. Okay, that's good.
Have you guys taken down photos of yourself partying? Yeah.
With the red plastic cups and all? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Swimsuit photos, take those down.
Just put everything to your friends, and that's the best thing. And even with Instagram, you have to be careful with it, because when you post from Instagram to Facebook, you have to make sure that settings within Facebook are not universal.
Yeah.
Because that had to be done.
Yeah. Because whether you like it or not, employers are going to be checking your online presence. They're going to Google you, even though they're not supposed to. They're only supposed to Google you once they give you a job offer. I can tell you they're breaking those rules, okay? Because now the National Association for Law Placement gives, suggested guidelines and rules and policies to the law firms that are members, and that's one of the policies that they put forth is, for social media, do not Google, check a candidate until after they've gotten an offer, because there really is potential for discrimination, okay? And I think one of the problems that we see are when people start posting photos that are inappropriate, especially profile photos.
Do any of you guys have blogs? Okay, that's good. Okay, because I think when you have a blog, and if you put on your resume that you have a blog or you have a website, you're inviting an employer to take a look at it. And if you have a personal blog where you just talk about anything and everything, even though employers shouldn't be looking at it, I still think you're running. You better be careful about what you put on it. But you agree?
Yeah, and also like on Twitter, because I've actually seen, because Twitter's a microblog, and I've seen law students have fights online about, constitutional law. It was terrible. They started saying the F word to each other. they started like, you know, one guy was, I'm so much smarter than you are, no you're not, you know, that was the wrong analysis, blah, 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 and they just escalated. I couldn't believe it. And that's not the kind of thing that you want an employer to see. And the great thing about Twitter is that every single tweet since 2000, I can't remember, is, yeah, it's archived in the Library of Congress.
I want to make it private.
So your words are going down in infamy. So those guys that had that little fight, oh my God, terrible. And you know, of course I did a screenshot because it was so bad. But those are the things that you want to stay away from. And so when you're starting with your LinkedIn profile, how many of you guys have actually got a professional profile taken of you and have it on LinkedIn? Nobody. All right. Thank God you're going to be doing that tomorrow, because what's wrong with this photo? This is a typical one.
Yeah, you can see this very often. What do you guys think?
She's drunk.
She's drunk. Okay, yeah, that's a good one.
That's a good one.
There's multiple things wrong with it, yes.
Like, just the contrast of her complexion, like it doesn't, it's just not a very good photograph. Yeah.
Yeah, yes.
There's somebody's arm around her.
Yeah, it's been cropped, yeah. Anything else? Okay, this is a very, very typical photo. It's unprofessional, it's blurry, it's not a good shot, there's somebody else in there. Don't have a photo like that. And I just went through my contacts and I looked, and believe me, I could have picked a lot of people that were guilty of this. What's wrong with this one? The lighting.
Distorted.
Distorted.
Yes. Yeah.
Anything else? Yeah, it's just bad, okay? This is
That's common
another very common one, very, very common. Here's another one. Too small, okay? Even lawyers that I knew, when I went through my connections the other day in preparation for this, there were some where the photo was just too tiny, and that is
And bad
no-no.
lighting.
Bad lighting, you can't even see the person.
Yeah.
Okay, how can you establish trust with someone when you can't even see their eyes, okay? This is just bad. So thank goodness that you guys have signed up to get your photos done tomorrow.
Another thing, and we don't have examples, but when you have a photo, I think smile is huge. Don't you think? I mean,
I think a smile
there are a
is
lot of
good too.
grumpy photos out there, and but even when you interview, like I notice when people interview, I notice when someone smiles or not, because that's huge. Body language. So when that comes through in a photo, you're nodding your head, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
Speaks to your character.
And-
People want to identify with somebody who's like smiling.
And no photos of you surfing, no photos of you, you know, on the beach, in their profile photos. These are actual photos that I just saw. No photos with your dog, no photos with any children, okay? Because that is discriminatory fodder for employers, all right? So one of the first things that you want to do is write a really strong headline. And very typical, this is very typical. Most students, when they come in and post something on LinkedIn, they'll put JD candidate, 20 whatever year of graduation.
Okay, we'll show you.
All right, so let's see. Contacts are gonna hate me.
No, you can just show on yours. Just show on yours, and you can show what area you're talking about.
All right, so the headline, I mean, this is the headline, okay? Member at Sandhill Angels. That's not a very good headline because we don't know what that actually means. When you click on her profile, you'll find out that she's actually a venture capitalist. Associate attorney at Bloom Bratz, blah, blah, blah. That's not a very good profile because an associate attorney, you don't know what the firm does, you don't know what she does. What we want you to do is to be more descriptive, okay? So a descriptive headline would be something like JD candidate with intellectual property specialty, okay? Or it would be associate attorney, with family law background, or, intellectual property, yes.
Sorry, what about for 1Ls? Like, we don't have a specialty yet. We don't have any certificate
Okay,
classes.
so
that we
for
can take
1Ls
right
right now, what I would do is, if you have any previous employment background, so, 1L or JD candidate with background in, and then talk about what your background in or what your specialties are. So I saw a really good headline from a law student, and it said, JD candidate, top-notch social networker, okay? And the reason that that's actually going to be interesting to employers, the ones, my age that are hiring, is a lot of us are afraid of social media. So we like that the younger generation is totally savvy on social media, and so they're looking for that skill set. So she put, JD candidate, top-notch social networker with a background in HR. And so that made her just stand out, because just by reading her headline, I could see that she's got some skill sets that I actually want. Because somebody with a background in HR, that to me says that they're going to have good communication skills and good people skills. So by just that alone, when you see someone's headline, that's going to make them more interested. Yes?
There are a couple of LLMs also in this room, so I would ask you if there is some solution for LLMs also.
For LLMs, I mean, I would do the same thing. What type of work have you done in the past? And, highlight some of the skills from that. Or, again, if there was a specialized field of study that you're interested in, or an area of law that you want to go into, and attach that. Because really, I mean, it's so common to just see, JD candidate, and then that's it. So that is an opportunity, your headline's an opportunity for you to market yourself. And I definitely would use that real estate to do so, yes.
What about like your bachelor's? If you got a bachelor's in chemistry and you're interested in IP, could you say I have a background in chemistry?
Yes, that was what I was going to say. So who has chemistry or a double E or computer science background? Market the hell out of that. Yeah, because like that is your calling card, especially in this geographic area.
And I mean, one of the things that you want to do is really think about, what are the top 3 reasons why an employer should hire you? And that should be part of your headline. And if you can't figure out the top 3 reasons why you should be hired, you should go to career services and they will help you. Okay, that's what I used to do. That is what I do for a living. I figure out what makes people special, and I help them market that. So another thing that you want to do is, once you find a great headline for yourself, you want to update your status regularly. Michael? Okay. So here's what you want to do. Write a great headline, okay? Here's me, founder of Positive Counsel, business development, career consulting, and social media strategies for lawyers. It's not just Marina Sarmiento, former attorney. I do more than that, okay? So you also want to personalize your URL. How many of you guys have personalized your URL? 2, 3. Okay, this is how you appear to be an expert on LinkedIn. You can claim your name right here, and the way you're going to do that is you just go into your settings, and the thing with LinkedIn is you got to fool around with it. It's not the easiest,
And
intuitive
they
thing.
change their settings frequently too. They just had a round of changes recently.
Okay, great. So go into your settings, look under your contact information, look under, or just do help, because they change it all the time. But you can personalize your URL and you can claim your name. And the way that you know you haven't personalized your URL is if you go to your public profile and there's a bunch of mumbo jumbo numbers after your name, it's not personalized. So that's the one thing that you can do after leaving today, is to personalize your URL. Another thing, yes?
With your personalization, just keep it like your first name, last name, nothing too out there. Just like a hand. Just like for your going back. This is a little bit going back. On your resumes, your email names, your handles, they're all like generic handles, right? Like first name dot last name or something like that. Nothing like hotmama.com. That's it, right?
Yeah, I saw one. It was like rabbit22.
Yeah, don't put numbers.
Because they were born in the year of the rabbit. Okay, I mean,
Yeah, don't
please.
put that.
Oh.
Question?
We recommend people that have like longer names or commonly misspelled names. Like, for example, Bonnie Line is, I'm sure, just reading, there's a possibility of confusion, I suppose, or mistyping. I mean, do you recommend simplifying things or just staying true to your full name?
So you have to pick what you want it to be, and you have to be consistent along all social media platforms. So for instance, mine is Marina Fian. It's the same on Twitter, and it's the same on Facebook. So I personalize all of those. And also, there's a lot of other kind of attorney websites like Avo and JD Supra and all of those things. My name is the same. I've claimed my vanity URL using the same name. So you can shorten it if you want. You could just use an initial, but have some form of at least a first name or a last name because you have to brand yourself. That's the thing. People have to be able to recognize you, and the way that they recognize you is by knowing your name. Okay.
You discourage the use of numbers too, right?
I discourage the use of numbers. I discourage the use of a dash. I discourage the use of, what is that called? Underscore. You want to just keep it as simple as possible. Okay? Any other questions? Love questions.
Sorry to clarify.
Yes.
But, so like my last name is Joanitas. It's very intimidating for people.
Say it again.
Joanitas.
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 But when you look at it,
Uh-huh.
you get Jonais, and a lot of people they write it down, and I've never seen anybody spell it right unless they're Greek.
Okay.
Really not Greek. So in that case there, would it be better to come up with a short like J. Joan? My first name's Jonathan, which everybody spells wrong either as well. But there's either an extra H in it, there's an O. If you're writing things down, it's easy to type in.
And are you known by Jonathan or John?
Usually JJ, but
Yeah.
that's a little informal, and I don't
That's too
necessarily want
informal,
that.
yes.
So in that case there, just Jonathan got Joanitas and just
That's right.
stick with it,
Or Joanitas.
or J. Joanitas.
Yeah, something like that. And the thing that you'll also find is once you start practicing law, I don't know if they do this at your firm, but at my firm, they don't even call you by your first name, they just call you by your first three initials. They call you by your initials.
We used to do that.
Yeah, you used to do that, not
We
anymore.
got too big, yeah.
Yeah, not too big,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
that's kind of a common law firm thing.
Do you have questions?
What if you're married, like former names?
Oh, that's a good question. Yeah.
Well, what do you go by?
Um,
mean, Do you go by your married name or your,
Yes, but I have contacts that know me all the time.
In LinkedIn, I've seen people put their maiden name as parentheses.
you can put your maiden name. And then also, my maiden name is Sarmiento, so I actually took that as my middle name.
I did too.
So that way people can recognize me. Because yeah, I have former clients that know me by Sarmiento. So,
Sorry, I have a really quick question. My name is very easy. A lot of people have my name Sarah Kim. I try to do all variations, even with my middle name, all of them are taken. So I have an email that has numbers. Is it really that big of a deal? Because there's no way I can have my name just simply my name.
yeah, I think in that case that you will have to do numbers, or you could do periods. in
I've tried
between
that too.
initials. That doesn't work too.
I
Yeah.
tried Gmail and all of the types of email, but my name's taken in every form, so I can't have that simple one.
Yeah, Michael has the same problem. If I Google him on LinkedIn, or if I just do a search for his name on LinkedIn, there's 475 Michael Clens. So, at that point, you can only do what you can do, especially when the name is common. But again, it's about consistency and making sure that you're using that same one across all social media platforms and communications. So here, one of the things that LinkedIn will do for you is it's going to tell you whether or not your profile is 100% complete. How many of you guys have reached 100% completeness? Okay, just very few, very few. And so one of the things that you want to do is make sure that you're filling in, your past employers, because what that's going to do is generate some groups that you can join. Alumni group probably from those past employers, as well as generate a list of potential contacts that you can connect to. The other thing that you want to do is here, when you're personalizing your contact information, you want to personalize your links. So if you have a Twitter account, this is a place where you can put your Twitter account. If you have a blog or you're a regular contributor to a blog, you can put a link to that. And then again, if you have your own website or other things that you can link to. Another thing I think is really good, LinkedIn again is constantly changing the number of things that you can add. So if you speak any languages other than English, that is something that you can add. I wouldn't recommend putting your test scores on there. I think that's obnoxious. And I have seen resumes where people put their LSAT scores and please, you're already in law school, I don't care. Courses, this is a really good one for law students. So for instance, I'm sourcing for jobs right now. I'm really interested in people with a tax background, people that have taken wills and trusts. So put down specialty classes that you're taking that are going to be pertinent to employers. And, if what you want to do is employment law, then you start putting down the employment law classes that you've taken, okay? If you've done really well, I know it's just a couple of weeks into school, if you do really well in your LRWs class, or if you've CALI'd a course, which means you've gotten the highest grade, this is where you can start displaying those things, okay? Because those things do mean stuff to employers. I think another really good thing to start adding is volunteering. Because when I interview folks, after it's been a long day, and Michael, I'm sure, is like this, sometimes you just go straight to the interest section. And when I see someone that has volunteered and for a cause that I happen to believe in or that I think is interesting, we're going to end up talking about that.
I agree, because I do that for my resume, and that's kind of introduced me to these people, because when they see that I volunteer with the inner city kids and all that, I agree. Anything like extra, I know in career services, do you tell people to leave out their personal interest or not?
Actually, I encourage it, but
Good.
my tagline is, if you're gonna put it down, make it interesting, because it's the focal point for a conversation. You're trying to solicit a conversation, so make it worthy of talking about.
Yeah, and that, I actually have put interest back on several people's resumes because, sometimes I read all of the stuff that they've written down for their jobs and my eyes start to glaze over. And so when they put something interesting, but yeah, you don't want to put like reading, okay? Some people put reading, some people put puzzles, some people put movies. You want to be more elaborative. So, maybe you read science fiction. Well, I'm a total science fiction freak, who would know, right? Then I would hop right on that. So you want to just elaborate a little bit more. Maybe you do like movies, I'm a total action movie, kung fu, that kind of freak. Jet Li is my hero. Put that on a resume and you and I will be talking like crazy. So, think about what your interests are, but make sure that you actually participate in those interests. So don't put down running and maybe you only run like 3 times a week, but barely 2 miles. Put down things that you're really passionate about that will spark a conversation because you're looking to connect with that person on a more personal level during your talk.
I do. This has been something that I've thought about a lot with my LinkedIn. I'm glad I finally get to ask it. I have a lot of experience with volunteering for political causes. I was a political science major. I want to put it on there because I think it's very valuable. The positions are all really good, but they do denote like particular candidates, particular party. What is your view on that?
I think resumes like that. Regardless, I had one student last year who worked in the White House actually, and I thought, this is cool. I want to talk to that person. I want to talk about how'd you get in there? What did you do? It's regardless. And if they're going to discriminate, if they're going to cut you off, then you probably don't want to work there.
Okay, yeah, I understand.
Yeah.
So you think it is okay to give a particular party affiliation on your profile through past experiences?
Yes.
Okay.
Where I would hold off is not with party affiliations, but with religion. Okay,
Yeah.
so when I see religion on a resume, that's when I start thinking, okay, this is kind of borderline. And I ask them, how tied are you to having that on your resume? Because that can raise some sort of flags in people.
Yeah.
It does on me. I don't know for you.
But you can kind of figure out, like, if someone's in the Federalist Society, you can kind of figure that out, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not like rocket science there.
Also, you have to think about your target audience.
Yes.
And you really need to evaluate whether it's religion or anything else, what you're putting on your resume, will that speak to that audience? What kind of reaction will they have based upon the information that you have, regardless of the signature? Something in your academics, student organization, work experience, personal interest, volunteerism, community involvement, whatever it is, you really need to evaluate your audience, and by doing that, you may have a couple of different resumes that bring out particular points of interest or activities that may identify with that particular firm, agency, corporation, what have you.
And this is why you need to go to career services. You should have more than one version of your resume. And so the other important part on LinkedIn, on your LinkedIn profile, is the summary. And when I was going through last night, looking at different people's summaries, some people actually skip even having a summary. Okay,
Can
and
you show
it's
your summaries?
toggle problem. So this is the summary, and it's gonna appear in front of, before your experience section. Now, after looking at my summary, I decided mine is much too long and I'm gonna need to cut it. But some people don't even put a summary, and this is really a place for you to summarize your experience. If you can put bullet points in there, that would be fantastic, and really just kind of highlight at a very high level what your skills are. And, you know, the next slide that I have is, you really want to talk about your summary as your elevator pitch.
And this is, again, where Hawking Career Services, really, this is where they come in really handy because your summary, LinkedIn, as I said earlier, they've just recently updated. Keywords will come up, in your summary, will help you show up in searches more frequently. And you guys will know what the buzzwords are because you do this so often.
Right,
you know? So
absolutely.
that's why, come October 15th, right? Okay. Ted, any questions?
I noticed that your summary was in third person. Is that better than doing it in first person?
So you need to pick which style. Some people do it in first person, some people do it in third. I'm gonna actually rewrite mine, and I'm gonna do it in first person.
Okay.
Because I started looking at other people's profiles and summaries that I thought were really good. And really, the good ones, you know, this one I thought was really good, because look at the paragraphs, the short sentences, a lot of white space. This is their entire summary, and it fills just, you know, one screen. Mine fills like a screen and a half, and have to scroll. That's too much work for someone. So you want to try to keep it to one screen. This is short. It tells a story. You know, no one is good at everything. And it tells a story of what they're good at, what they do for their clients. It highlights their skills and has a call to action. So this is all marketing speak, because what you want is, you know, a call to action at the end is, if you like what you see, please call me. You know, I'm a highly motivated law student that came to law school because of my desire to da-da-da-da-da. You know, talk about that. I've got an amazing experience as a Peace Corps volunteer, and I want to translate that into the practice of law by helping, you know, whatever. But come up with a story for yourself that's going to make you interesting. And again, you know, put down a few things like what your specialties are, what your interests are, what your passions are, and try to really have a cohesive story. And I think there's a link here. And just Google it, you know, examples of great LinkedIn summaries, and these three came up and they were amazing and made me want to change mine. So the other kind of pet peeve that I have is when you start building your network and you're connecting with people. How many of you guys have about 100 connections on LinkedIn? How many of you guys have less than 100? How many have over 500? All right, good job. So LinkedIn gives you the option of just uploading a bunch of email addresses and joining those people automatically. What I really suggest is that you join people one by one and add a very personalized message, okay? And the reason for this is because you want to build a strong network and you want people to remember you. And if you're trying to connect with people that maybe you met at a networking event, you know, they may not want to connect with you because they don't see what the value is. So by personalizing the invitation, this can really up the chances of you connecting with someone who might be, you know, out of your league. Maybe this person is a partner. You know, maybe they're a hiring, recruiting person. So here's an example. Sally. Sally is general counsel at Uber. How many of you guys have heard of Uber? Okay, yeah. I wanted to connect with her. I read an article that she wrote. She's seen me around. We haven't really connected. I praised her. I flattered her. I enjoy your article in the ABA newsletter. I would love to keep in touch via LinkedIn. She accepted my invitation last night. Okay, so that's what you want to do. When you meet somebody at an event, you know, get their card. Try to remind them of how you guys met, what you may have talked about. Maybe you do a little bit of additional research after you've met them and you see that they are a partner at a firm, they've written about this, they've written about that, they spoke about this. Just flatter them. Flattery will get you everywhere with lawyers, they love to talk about themselves.
And another piece,
Yes,
the call to action. Love to keep in touch via LinkedIn.
yeah, call to
A
action.
CTA, call to action is very important.
Okay, so your connection strategy. We've talked a little bit about this.
Yeah, with only 10 minutes, let's quickly go through it, but quality versus quantity. Yes, some people have over 500 connections, but and we were talking about this on the drive down here. I think it's sometimes more valuable to have 5 quality connections versus 50 or 500. It's the quality of your network that can help you as opposed to quantity.
And part of getting some of the quality is joining groups. So this is a way where through the groups, you're connected to a lot of people without being directly connected to them. So what happens when you join a group is you're going to be 2 degrees of separation away from each other. So when you connect directly with somebody, you're 1st degree of separation, and you have like full access to view their account or view their profile and things like that. When you're in a group, this is when you can start connecting with people that you may not know because you have a similar group affiliation. And so that's kind of the secret power of being in a group. And you want to join groups like practice areas. No, I just Googled. You want to look for groups that are active. Okay, don't go to a group where nobody has any discussions. Here, it's very active. There's over 10,000 members. I mean, this is like the place to join if you're going to be an IP lawyer. And then look at how many discussions, 186 just this month alone. That means they are conversing with each other, they're having conversations. This is how you can actually start doing research in that area of law and really thinking about what the practice is like and having things to talk about when you're being interviewed, okay? So, thing to remember, the way to use LinkedIn is it's a way to start asking folks to do informational interviews. It's a way to get connected with people that you don't necessarily have access to. It's a good way to do research on companies. There's company pages, there's law firm pages, there's lawyers that are doing what you want to do. Those are the people that you want to connect with. Those are the people you want to seek advice from and, get referrals from. They might have an in about a job and they could introduce you to the people that are doing the hiring. And LinkedIn is a place where you can share and you can demonstrate your knowledge and your expertise. While you may not think that you have expertise, there might be an area of law that you're really interested in, or maybe you're like an expert in training for marathons. That's the kind of stuff that you can share. There are running groups on LinkedIn, and that could be a way for you to get known because there are lawyers like to run. We're stressed, so we run a lot. But think about those things. And then Michael, talk about.
Okay, so then I'm going to talk about FaceTime. And so part of our thesis is that we want you to use LinkedIn as your jumping ground, your starting point for your connections. It's not going to be your only tool. And you don't do everything through LinkedIn. It's just where you start. So the ultimate goal is to have face-to-face contact. So you're going to meet your contacts in person, over coffee, over lunch, or at events. Then through your research, you're going to learn as much as you can about what lawyers do and what lawyers have accomplished. I tell people, when I have people come in for interviews, I prep them on every single lawyer that they're going to meet with. I tell them things that they should know so that they can bring up with the lawyers. Because a lawyer's favorite subject is themselves. They love to talk about it. So if you can get someone to talk about themselves, you're nodding your head. They love it. And connect, you introduce your network to people you know too. I mean, we've done that just with ourselves, where I've introduced Marina to people I know, and she's introduced me to people that she knows. So it's kind of, you'll see the magic of the
expanded
network.
And
last, nurture. It's so important. Meeting someone once does not make for a connection. You have to meet them repeatedly. Like I said before, I make it a job of mine to at least once or twice a month to meet people through my network, whether it's drinks or coffee, where I actually take them out and pay for it, and just catch up what's going on and all that. And I think that's, if you do it now, start it now, make it a habit, it becomes easier.
And it will pay off in the future for when these guys have to start bringing in clients. All of a sudden, you have already a network in place.
Well, you guys already have networks. I mean, groups that I think you guys should look into joining is your undergrad. Or you have a chemist, like you probably had a science group at your undergrad, right? I do, so.
So for job searching on LinkedIn, I mean, LinkedIn, I really see it as the place to start looking and researching companies that you're interested in. If you click onto your own profile, there's a tab at the top that says jobs. And you can actually see, like the bigger your network, you can see the number of open jobs in your network. So, this is my profile here, and it's some of the major corporations that I'm connected to. You can see how many jobs they have open, and then you can see how many folks that you have direct connections to that can hook you up and connect you with whoever the hiring folks are at this company, or Brigham Young, or AIG. Okay, so that's the power of LinkedIn, because people are posting their previous jobs. And again, you can search companies of interest. So here, I did a search by who's hiring on LinkedIn in the San Francisco Bay Area and Los Angeles in the legal industry. And it came up with 31 results, okay? So you can narrow those by even further by drilling down on this side. And I think that's a really helpful way. And with the 1L, you're not going to find a lot of, I did a search for law clerk or summer associate. There weren't a lot of jobs that were posted, but here's the value of doing research on companies. I would actually do a search on who's hiring for lawyers, okay, in corporations. Because if they're hiring for lawyers, that means they have a law department. Guess what? They might be willing to take on a summer intern, but no one's ever actually bothered to contact them. So, you can be proactive in your search on LinkedIn by looking at corporations that have enough money to hire lawyers and then contacting them before, the whole mad rush does. Contacting them in advance, especially if there's some way that you're connected to that company, that someone can make an introduction on your behalf. Okay? Michael.
Okay, e-professionalism best practices. Really quickly, profile, your LinkedIn profile, make it public, keep it current and updated, and you guys are gonna get good photos tomorrow, so that's good. Connections, as Marina indicated earlier, don't import your connections from Outlook or other accounts. Do them one by one, personalize your introductory email to everyone. Follow the people after you meet them, after networking events, send them an email saying, hey, it was great to meet you, yada yada, I'd like to follow up. Engage 1 to 3 times a week on LinkedIn, or
Status updates.
status updates. This is kind of early for you guys, but once you become an attorney, you guys have to be aware of client privilege rules and confidentiality.
And that's actually as law students, because we've had, there have been major scandals where law students that were working at a public defender's office actually started blogging about the strategy during trial. And that was,
Just best practice, don't talk about work.
don't talk about work, don't blog things, don't post things on Facebook about cases that you're working on and things that are active.
Like even when you're in my office building, high rise, when we get into an elevator with other people, we don't talk.
Yeah.
Just because you're afraid of that.
And one last thing, really nifty app. LinkedIn just bought CardMunch. CardMunch is this fabulous application where I can take a photo with my phone of the business card. It uploads it to somebody in India, who then types up all of the information on that card, and then it'll automatically link it to my LinkedIn, okay? So I never have to carry anybody's business cards around ever, or keep it, hanging around on my desk, cluttering. CardMunch is fabulous. And when you take the photo, you can hear it go. It actually munches like the little card. Stupid little things that amuse the hell out of me. So manage your brand once you're online, and you guys are already online, so set up a Google alert for your name. Make sure you know what's being said about you, and if there's bad things, LinkedIn, it can actually help you with reputation management, because LinkedIn has a really high SEO, which is search engine optimization. So LinkedIn results often pop up at the very top of a Google search, or at least one of the top 3. So that's a way to control your reputation online.
And to do that, what you do is you put status update once a week or something, and then it'll just keep updating what's most recent.
Exactly, and also by having your vanity URL, that will also increase your SEO on Google. So, claim your name, have a great photo, and have that same URL. URL across all social media lines. Okay? All right, we're running out of time. So sorry, guys.
Please
Okay.
join me in
Thank you so
thanking
much.